Today we're doing something that sounds almost too simple to be a whole lesson. Water. But here's the thing. Nearly every property of water that keeps you alive traces back to a single kind of bond. We're going to build from that one bond all the way up to why you sweat and how a redwood drinks. Start with the molecule. Oxygen and two hydrogens, sharing electrons in polar covalent bonds. But sharing is generous. Oxygen is far more electronegative, so it pulls those electrons closer and picks up a partial negative charge. Each hydrogen is left partially positive. And because the molecule is bent at about 104.5 degrees, those charges don't cancel out. Water is polar. It has a negative and an end and a positive end. Hold on to that. It's the seed of everything. Now, put two of these polar molecules near each other. The partially positive hydrogen of one is attracted to the partially negative oxygen of another. That attraction is a hydrogen bond. Each water molecule can do this with up to 4 neighbors, forming a constantly shifting 3D network. Any single hydrogen bond is weak, about 1/20th the strength of a covalent bond, and they break and reform billions of times a second. But there are so many that, collectively, they act strong. Everything from here on is this one bond scaled up, what we call an emergent property. First pair, cohesion and adhesion. Cohesion is water sticking to water. Adhesion is water sticking to other polar surfaces. Watch what one does in a plant. Water evaporates from the leaves, transpiration, and that creates tension that pulls the entire water column upward. Cohesion holds the column together like a rope, so it doesn't snap. Adhesion to the xylem walls helps fight gravity. That's how water climbs to the top of a 100-foot tree with no pump at all. Capillary action in a thin tube is these same two forces. Cohesion also shows up at the surface. Molecules at the water-air boundary have no neighbors above them, so their hydrogen bonds pull inward and sideways, creating a taut film. Water's surface tension is unusually high enough that a water strider's weight spreads across the film instead of breaking through it. It's just cohesion, concentrated at the surface. Now temperature. When you add heat to water, the energy first goes into breaking hydrogen bonds, not into speeding molecules up. So the temperature rises slowly. That's a high specific heat, 4.18 joules per gram per degree Celsius. One of the highest of any common substances. The payoff is stability. Your cells, which are mostly water, resist rapid temperature swings, and large bodies of water keep aquatic habitats and coastal climates mild. The same hydrogen bonding sets up the next property too. Evaporative cooling. With any one water sample, the fastest, highest energy molecules are the ones that escape the vapor as vapor. When they leave, they take that energy with them, and the water left behind cools down. And because breaking hydrogen bonds costs so much, water's heat of evaporation is enormous, about 2,260 joules per gram. So every gram that evaporates removes a lot of heat. That's exactly why sweating cools you off and why transpiration cools off a leaf. Water is a built-in coolant. Let's pull it all together. Look down in this table. One cause runs through the whole thing, hydrogen bonding. It fans out into 4 properties, and each one has a real job in the living system. If you remember nothing else, remember the pattern. The bond leads to a property, leads to a biological function. For the exam, this is high value. Free response questions almost always ask you to link structure to function. And graders reward specific vocabulary. Partial charges, electronegativity, hydrogen bonds forming and breaking. Emergent property. The classic trap is describing a property without ever naming the bond. So the move that earns points every time is this chain. Molecular structure, then the property, then the biological function. Trace it all the way through. So here's the whole lesson in one line. Water's fitness for life comes down to one weak reversible bond repeated at enormous scale. Polarity builds the bond builds cohesion, surface tension, thermal stability, and cooling. And those properties build the conditions every living thing depends on. Not bad for 3 atoms. If you like this, subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time.